how far we've come. You're alone, my heart is beating for. I can feel rising out the sun. Mercy sings me the promise of your love, and how remind how far we've come. You're the one my heart is beating for. I can feel rising out the sun. Mercy sings me the promise of your love, and I'll remind how far we've come. You're the one my heart is beating for. I can feel rising out the sun. Mercy sings me the promise of your love. I'll remind how far we've come. You're the one my heart is beating
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Abigail. She's one of our home team leads, and it's really good to be back with y'all. We were on vacation last week. We enjoyed some time on the beach in Southern California, and it was beautiful.
You look like you enjoyed some time on the beach.
We
You're
did.
really sunshiny.
And it's good to be back. And hey, welcome to all of you online joining us from Facebook or YouTube. We're glad you're part of this community, glad you're with us tonight. And to give you all the reminder, we are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there is always one thing we do not do, and y'all can count it out, all 4 words, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. It's more than 1 word, man. All right, y'all, that was pretty good. I'm proud of you. Abby, do you want to tell us some things that are coming up that we should know about?
I would love to. Thank you so much, Ryan. Welcome to Free. If this is your first time joining us, we're so happy to have you. Outside of these doors right here, we do have some welcome bags with some freshly roasted wagon coffee, some free swag, and a Connect card if you wouldn't mind filling that out so we can keep you up to date on all of the amazing things happening here at Free, like our golf tournament that we have. It's coming up on the 24th. 100% of the proceeds go to our Home at Last campaign, where we are purchasing this building. And good news, we have extended the registration. So if you are interested in signing up, make sure you do so.
Yes, we just found that out this week. So I posted on social that the deadline was Friday, but it has been extended a few days. So if you are still... some of you have asked, hey, is it too late to put a team together? No, it's not too late, but I would say sign up soon because there will be a cutoff day soon, but you do have some time left.
So make sure you get signed up. And then also...
Can I say a word about the campaign real quick? Because I want to give just a little update, and I'll give a more full update next week. But I think most of you know by now that we're getting this to be our permanent home. Now, we're trying to raise $1.3 million. That's the purchase price to be all in. This building appraised at $3.77 million, so we thought this was a no-brainer. And we have raised right around $600,000 so far. So we've got some work to do. We're waiting on a couple of grants as well. But we're going to be doing this thing through October. So there is some time left. We have actually lots of time left. And we're going to do this thing. And this is going to be our permanent home. And I said this last service. Some of y'all know how important that is because there was a time like where we were just in our backyard. That's where we started. But then some of y'all who have been here for a while know like what it was like to be almost homeless and not know where we're going. So to have a permanent home, very, very cool. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, this is home for so many people. So, it's a very exciting. And then I do want to talk about a new meeting we have here at Free. It is on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is our Dharma recovery meeting. And we had 15 people here on Thursday. So it's a really exciting meeting. If you're interested, I'd be happy to tell you more about it. But come on Thursday night at 7 p.m. And then lastly, our recovery art show, which will be August 4th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. With our good friends, Colorado Artists in Recovery.
That's right. And the cafe will be open. All the artist spots are filled. Great artists going to be showcasing their work. So you can come and support them, mingle, walk around, get a coffee, and have fun. It's going to be
a great time.
Yeah. Is that it, Abby?
That is it.
Thank you. Can I say one other cool thing?
Of course.
It's not cool, but it is cool. So Noelle is sick tonight. That's not the cool part. Noelle, I hope you get better if you're watching. And Amy Anderson, our cafe manager, is also sick tonight. She called this afternoon and said, I don't think I'm going to be able to come in. I am really sick. And so just a huge shout out to the cafe volunteers who are rocking it out there, all volunteers. So they're killing it. Thank you all. I know they can't hear us, but be sure and give them a big thank you if you go get a coffee at some point tonight. Okay, that's all I want to say.
All right, well, thanks.
Thank you, Abby. If you can give that mic to Scott, because the way we get started here at Free is we celebrate together. We lift up the good in a really important part of our time together to celebrate the good happening in life, the new thing. Maybe it's a sobriety anniversary or any sort of anniversary, the new thing you're getting, a new baby, a new job, new home, whatever it is, we want to celebrate it. And we believe that God joins with us in the celebrations. So we take 3 minutes for this. Holly over here in the blue shirt will pass around a mic. Adam with all the tattoos will pass around a mic on this side. And just raise up your hand, and whatever it is you're celebrating, we want to celebrate it with you. And we will take 3 minutes. And if you're online, just drop it in the Facebook comments or YouTube comments. We'll celebrate with you too.
My name is Layla. I am celebrating 125 days clean and sober today.
Way to go, Layla!
And I just moved into my own apartment.
You what?
I just moved into my own apartment.
All right,
Yes.
Congratulations. Sobriety and new home. Love it.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 120 days free from fentanyl, and I just got my own apartment also.
All right. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Raylan. Ooh, that's loud. And I just wanted to celebrate my wife having 60 days on Monday and being home and being amazing. So.
All right, congratulations. 60 days. That's big stuff.
All right, so everybody, I'm Batman. I'm with Pat. While you was with Pathfinders, man, I'm 63 days sober today. And the last couple of times I've been here, I've been praying for my baby girl here. She is 29 days sober. This is Taylor. She's went through a hell of a lot to get here. Everybody give it up.
We'll celebrate all of it. I love the energy.
I'm Nicole, and I got a year and 3 days.
All right, Nicole, congratulations.
I'm Erica, and I have 30 days today.
Erica, way to go. Who else do we have? You got another minute and a half left. Second row.
Hi, I'm Christine, and we got a new horse for our equine therapy program, and I'm thinking he's going to work out, and we took him on his first trail ride today. He did really well, and he's doing really good in the program. Just got to make sure he's physically okay, so praying that we can keep him. Thank you.
All right, celebrating a new horse. And see, we celebrate it all around here.
Larry celebrating 5 months today.
All right, way to go, Larry. Good stuff.
Bill, celebrating 2.5 months. No alcohol, no drugs.
Way to go, Bill. That's a long time, dude. Way to go. Congratulations. We got time for one or two more.
Hi, my name is MJ, and I am 60 days sober today, and I'm grateful.
Way to go, MJ. Big stuff.
My name is John. I'm on day 3 without alcohol.
All right, John. Keep doing it, man. Good stuff. Congratulations, John. Glad you're here. Glad you're all here. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Adam. You can turn those mics off and just put them right back up there. Oh, we got our online people to celebrate with. Tammy Canaday is going to join me up here. The one and only Tammy Canaday.
Hi,
I almost forgot. See, we take a week off, and I just forget things.
I know. Well, and you have the 5 o'clock, which you don't do.
I know. The 5 o'clock is it's still kind of new to me.
I know.
And it's awesome. I love it.
It's good to be back, huh?
It is good to be back. It's someone was asking me just a minute ago if I miss it. Yes, we miss the beach, but it's always good to go, and it's always good to come home. It really is.
This is true. Yep.
Okay, you want to take the first one?
Yeah. Hey, Marnie. My name is Marnie, and I am an alcoholic. Day 179.
Way to go, Marnie. Congratulations. Chad says, celebrating 4 months sober in 3 days for myself and almost 6 months sober for my girlfriend. Also celebrating a great life and a happy life. Way to go,
Awesome,
Chad. We're
Chad.
celebrating with you, dude.
And James says, 90 days clean. Thank you, Free. You have been an inspiration.
All right,
Aw.
James, we'll celebrate that.
Nice work,
Congratulations, man. 90 days. Christy says, grateful God took care of us as we had to deal with an issue in court. God is good. Christy, we'll celebrate that with you. Glad
Love you,
you're here
Christy.
with us tonight. And I believe that's it. Thank you, Tammy, for joining me up here. All right, y'all, we are in week 2 of this 4-week series called Breaking the Silence.
You think you own me, but you don't. You think you can destroy me. You can't. Your labels do not contain me. Your lies do not intimidate me. I will not be less than what I was created to be, and I will not run in fear. Time and time again, you've held me down, but not today. Today, I win the battle. Today, you run from me, because I am strong. I am courageous.
Breaking the silence of addiction, that's our mission here at Free. And for a moment, I just want to remind you all some of the reasons why this is our mission. First, did you know that the disease of addiction now affects more Americans than heart disease, diabetes, or cancer? Did you know that nearly 25 million people in America battle drug and or alcohol addiction, and only 10% of those people are receiving help? 110,000 people in the U.S. died of a drug overdose last year, which was up 51% from the year 2019. And y'all do know it's not just a drug problem, because 88,000 people die as a result of alcohol every single year. In Colorado, we have to remember we've got some work to do. Because, see, Colorado consistently reports drug and or alcohol addiction rates that are significantly higher than the national average. And y'all know our mental health isn't real stable right now. In fact, in 2021, Colorado ranked dead last, 51st among U.S. states and the District of Columbia for adult mental health. Last year, we made some improvement. We are now ranked only 45th. We've got some work to do. Those suffering with drug and or alcohol addiction here in Colorado reported stigma as the primary reason for not seeking help. Do you see why breaking the silence of addiction matters? Now, I spoke publicly and honestly about my addiction and recovery story for the first time in February of 2016. I was just over 3 years sober, and I, until that point, stayed really quiet. Didn't want anyone to find out. Stayed really quiet. Part of that was with the help of my sponsor. And in February of 2016, I decided to, with the help of my sponsor and some trusted mentors in my life, that Sunday morning, went to the pulpit of the church where I was serving as pastor. And I spoke openly and honestly about my story. And y'all, I did so with that kind of holy fear and trembling, because you don't know how this thing's going to turn out. Vulnerability says you don't get to control the results, so you don't know how people are going to receive it. And my hands were sweaty. My voice was shaky. And what I can tell y'all is on that Sunday morning after the services, I was greeted with a lot of love and compassion and overwhelming grace. But what I remember most about that moment wasn't the Sunday, but it was the Monday after. It was when my email box, my face messenger box, it was flooded with messages, not just from the church community, but the broader community, because it was on YouTube as well. And messages like, hey, I've been struggling with alcohol for many years now, and how'd you put down the bottle? Messages like, hey, my son or my daughter battles addiction, but we don't really talk about it as a family, and how do we start talking about this? And messages like, my mom can't stop from taking the pills, and it's taking everything from our family, and how do we get her help? And I went to the church the following Sunday morning, and I'm looking out towards my people, and I thought, oh my goodness, we have a big problem. Because as I'm looking into their faces, I'm saying, man, you're sitting next to someone who is going through the same thing you are, the same addiction, but we don't know it. You don't know it because we've gone in silence. Or, man, you're sitting next to someone, their son or daughter is going through the same thing your son or daughter is going through, but you don't know it because we've gone silent. And I can tell you that was the moment breaking the silence of addiction was born into my head and heart. Because it was like for the first time, I was seeing that like people are dying. People are dying emotionally, mentally, spiritually, figuratively and literally. In fact, the year we started Free in our backyard in 2018, that summer, that year I did 6 funerals that were drug and alcohol related, and 5 of those 6 people were under the age of 35. You know, also early in recovery, I heard some of the scariest words that were ever spoken to me. I was sitting at the dining room table of my sponsor's home, meeting with my sponsor, and it was early. It was like before we even started really working the 12 steps. And he said to me at the end of the night, he said, "Ryan, you need to know you are spiritually disconnected." And I'm like, "No, dude, you don't get it. No, not me. You see, I'm dying in my addiction, and I want to try to convince him that my life really is manageable. It's not that bad." And I started saying to him, "Dude, you don't have to bring God into this. This isn't a spiritual disconnection problem. This is just Ryan has a drinking problem. I can't put down the bottle. I can't stop drinking. And maybe I need to remind you that, dude, I'm a pastor. I got my job. I get paid to help in the spiritual connection process. And I've got a biblical studies undergrad degree and a seminary degree, a master's degree, master's of divinity degree. Don't tell me I'm spiritually disconnected." But do you all know what was underneath all of that? It was like massive amounts of fear. Because if I had to admit that, I had to admit I had nothing. And what I have found in my recovery is that God does some pretty good work with the nothingness. But I couldn't get there on my own. I had to have people point it out to me. I had to have people come alongside me and say, "Ryan, you do know that hating yourself is not a real manageable way to live. Ryan, you do know that planning all of your activities around the next drink is not a manageable way to live. And Ryan, you do know that being a husband, a father, and a pastor, and at the same time being hungover 5 days a week is not really a manageable lifestyle. And Ryan, you do realize that your wife being scared out of her mind that you won't be able to drive her to the hospital when she goes into labor to give birth to your baby girl isn't really a good or manageable way to live. And Ryan, you do know that you hoping no one ever sees you, you hiding, you living in shame is not a manageable way of life." And you could ask the obvious question, if that's the way you want to live, well, where's God in that? And what I can tell you is my addiction built a significant barrier between me and God, me and the spiritual. And I see it very differently today. It's not that God left me in my addiction, God abandoned me. No, but that addiction put up a significant barrier. And recovery teaches us what? To live in rigorous honesty. Admitting that you have nothing can be very, very difficult. I had nothing and I was disconnected in 1,000 different ways, and I felt a bit lost. I felt like I was in this dark valley, and I am reminded God does some pretty good work with the nothingness, the lostness in the valley. You know, several years ago, while I was in seminary, I took a class with the great Dr. Vincent Harding. Dr. Vincent Harding, if you don't know him, he was an African-American pastor and professor and historian. He was best known for his work with and alongside the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And Dr. Vincent Harding, he had this real soft way about him, like a voice of real wisdom, but when he spoke, it was a booming voice. He passed away in 2014, but before he passed, I took a class with him, and I'll never forget how he started class that day. He scanned the room, and he just started asking random students. He'd say, "My brother, my sister," he called everyone brother and sister, just like Cornel West does. "My brother, tell me, what is it you want to do when you graduate seminary, when you leave the Iliff School of Theology? And students were saying, well, I'm going to be a pastor. I'm going to get ordained in this tradition. Or I'm going to be a social activist. And I'm going to go fight social justice issues. And the whole time they're talking and he's asking questions, I'm just looking down, praying, God, please don't let him call on me. God, please don't let him call on me. And then he looks me right in the eyes. My brother, tell me, what is it you want to do when you graduate seminary and leave here from the Iliff School of Theology? And y'all, that was in 2008. Man, I was like deep in the depths of my addiction. Life was kind of dark. Man, it was a time in my life where I was so frustrated with religion and the church. I didn't know who God was anymore. I was so confused. I was so lost. And I told Dr. Harding, I said, man, I used to know, but I don't know anymore. Man, I got into this stuff in high school, and I've been traveling this far, and I used to know, I used to want to be a pastor, but I don't know anymore. I'm confused, and I feel kind of lost, and I'll never forget what he said to me. Like with this very calm but booming voice, he said, my brother, the path of confusion often leads to great clarity. And I remember thinking, what in the heck is that? Like, what in the heck kind of BS line is that? Is that just something you say to make people feel better, to relieve the tension? And what I can tell you now, what I can tell you today is I can stand before you as the pastor and executive director of this free community with a great deal of clarity. And that is different than certainty. It's different than easy answers. It's clarity that I am exactly where God has called me to be, and maybe you are too. But see, you need to know something if you are part of this community. We do not do our work on the mountaintops. We don't do our work in the promised land, the land that's flowing with milk and honey. We do our work in the valley, and it's a place of death and dying. But I love this place because it's the place where new life is always possible. It's the place where I believe we can experience the very depths of joy, and I believe God is in this place because I've experienced God too many times in the valley. Now, in the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, there's a prophet named Ezekiel. And I want to read with you some of his vision. And I get it. Some people will say, well, why do we got to read the scriptures? It's just so ancient and old and barbaric and backwards, and I can't relate to it. Why do we got to read the scriptures? As we read through this vision together, I want you to hold on to those things, but also see if you find yourself in the story. Because for us here at Free, I consider this one of our foundational texts here at Free. I believe this is our story. Now, some people, they think of prophets as like fortune tellers, predictors of the future, and that is not accurate. Prophets, Hebrew prophets, they were considered spokespeople for God. And the thing about prophets is they always spoke to their people, which means they would say some really difficult things to their people. They would give some warnings like, y'all, we can't keep living this way. But they always spoke a word of hope. And you have to remember, Ezekiel, he is not just any prophet. He's a Hebrew prophet. And he's speaking during a very important time of history. History books call this the Babylonian exile. Anyone remember the Babylonian exile? 587 BC, very important time. The very powerful Babylonian Empire. The Babylonians came into Jerusalem, the place of the Hebrew people. They destroyed their temple, which was very significant because for them this was the center place of life. Destroyed the temple. We have history texts that tell us some of the things, the awful things they did to some of the men, women, and children. Like, this was before nose rings were cool. They would put nose rings through the nose of the people and drag them around through the city and put them on display. We have texts that tell us some of the men, women, and children were skinned alive. And the Babylonians took their flesh and hung it on their walls as decoration. For the Hebrew survivors, they were taken out of their land and into this foreign land called Babylon, where they were forced to live as slaves. This is the time period Ezekiel is writing and speaking, and he often describes it as a battlefield, like bodies everywhere. And see, Ezekiel, he's always speaking of these visions, and in his writings, he takes us on a tour of these visions. And I want to share with you part of the tour of Ezekiel chapter 37 and see if it's your story. Are you with me? Here's how he starts. The Lord's power overcame me. And while I was in the Lord's Spirit, he led me out and set me down in the middle of a certain valley. It was full of bones. He led me through them all around, and I saw that there were a great many of them on the valley floor, and they were very dry. And I want to pause for just a moment because dry bones, this is the imagery for what happens when you are exposed to the elements for too long. Anyone know what it's like to be exposed to the elements of addiction for too long? Yeah, me too. He keeps going. He asked me, human one, can these bones live again? I said, Lord God, only you know. He said to me, prophesy, which means speak a good word. Speak a good word over these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the Lord's word. The Lord God proclaims these bones. I'm about to put breath in you and you will live again. I will put sinews, tendons on you, place flesh on you and cover you with skin. When I put breath in you and you come to life, you will know that I am the Lord. In other words, this wasn't your own doing. I prophesied just as I was commanded. There was a great noise as I was prophesying, then a great quaking, and the bones came together, bone by bone. When I looked, suddenly there were sinews on them. The flesh appeared, and don't miss this part, and then they were covered over with skin, but there was still no breath in them. Now, I want to pause for another moment because do you see how bold this is? I mean, some of these people, they had just watched their people be skinned alive and their flesh hanging on walls for decoration. And this God has the audacity to say, all things can be made new. You know, just on Thursday evening, right before Sober Open Mic Night, I was meeting with my friend and brother Chris back on the tech team. We were sitting in my office and he's going through a really difficult situation involving family dynamics and his kids. And some of this situation is certainly caused because of the brutality of a life of addiction. And he received some tough news this week. And with tears coming down his face, he says, Ryan, it just feels like I've been climbing this mountain. And I got to the top of the mountain only to find out this week I'd never really climbed at all. And I'm still down in the valley. And as I was reading this text yesterday, preparing for this message, I was praying for Chris. I was reminded of this image of God who says, hang on. I know what the valley's like. I'm with you in the valley, and all things can be made new. I mean, is this vision, isn't it our story? When we think about your life in addiction, maybe you're in early recovery, and you're like, man, my bones are kind of coming back together, but I still can't breathe all the way yet. Or maybe you're in recovery from being addicted to the addict in your life. And you're like, man, it's starting to come back together, but I still can't breathe all the way yet. You're starting to get new life. Because, see, we have to remember something. Resurrected life, new life, it doesn't happen overnight, does it? It's a process. It takes time. And we have to remember, for many of us in this room, for many of you watching, we spent years or even decades with bad habits and negative patterns and unhelpful coping mechanisms. And those things, they don't just disappear in an instant, do they? He keeps going in his vision. And I wouldn't normally read this long of a text. It's only 12 verses, but I think it's that important. He said to me, prophesy to the breath, speak a good word. Prophesy, human one, say to the breath, the Lord God proclaims, come from the four winds, breath, breathe into these dead bodies and let them live. I prophesied just as he commanded me. When the breath entered them, they came to life and stood on their feet, an extraordinarily large company. He said to me, human one, these bones are the entire house of Israel. They say our bones are dried up and our hope is gone and we are completely cut off. And I want to pause for one more moment. Because, see, we have to understand something about the ancient Hebrew people. The worst possible scenario for them was not literal death. No. Been there, done that, seen it, we're in it now. The worst thing that could happen to them was to be cut off from God, abandoned by God. It's that kind of total despair where God isn't present. It's that kind of pain that feels like it's going to last forever. It's the kind of suffering that doesn't really have any sort of solutions. Have you been there? Has anyone felt cut off from God, abandoned by God, abandoned by hope? And for some of you, you also know what it's like to breathe again, to have God breathing new life into your lungs, and to stand on your own 2 feet in the company of many others, your comrades. And what's God say to Ezekiel while he's standing in this valley of dry bones? Here's how he closes it. So now prophesy, say a good word, and say to them, the Lord God proclaims, I'm opening up your graves. I will raise you up from your graves. Because y'all do know, God always does God's best work in graveyards among the dead and dying. And God was asking Ezekiel in this vision, Ezekiel, my boy, do you believe? Even in the midst of this, even in the dry bones valley, do you believe that new life can happen even here? And it's not so ancient, is it? Because isn't God asking us the same thing? Ryan, do you believe? Even with all the addiction statistics, even with all the overdose deaths, even with your own story, do you believe that new life can happen even here? And my free brothers and sisters, the same is being asked of you. Do you believe that new life can happen even here? And I'll close with this. It is no secret that religion in America, or the church in America, is in rapid decline, and it has been for a couple of decades now. And so what? I mean, so what? Research tells us this. Research, in fact, it tells us the primary reasons for this. There's all kinds of reasons, but people look at church people as being judgmental, hypocritical, exclusive, that they're people with no authenticity. And I would say maybe religion, maybe we spent way too much time looking for God on the mountaintops rather than the valleys. Like maybe the church catered to people of comfort rather than creating space for people in the valley. And I want you to know, if you are part of this community, and if you're here with us tonight, even if you're online, you're part of this community, you have a place here. The only requirement for membership is a desire to belong. But you have a place here. And I do realize we're all on different parts of the journey, and that's okay. For some of you, you would say to me, man, I am the dead and dying. I am those dry bones in the valley. It feels like I've been cut off from God and cut off from hope. And what I would say to you is stay put, because I believe God can breathe new life into you even when you least expect it. I've seen it with too many people here. I've experienced it myself. Or maybe for some of you, you would say to me, man, it feels like life is starting to be put back together again. I'm starting to feel human again, but I just still can't breathe all the way. And I would say to you, stay connected. Keep staying connected to your recovery. You cannot afford to go back to the disconnection. Stay connected. God is breathing life into you. And the truth is, some of you are Ezekiel. You have been led here by God, and you've come to this place with a great deal of humility. And you follow God. And to you, I would say good. Good, because this community needs you. The valley of dry bones cries out. Do you hear it? The valley needs you. And if you're sitting here right now and you're saying to yourself, yeah, man, I get all that, but it just sounds a little bit scary. The valley's a little dark. The dry bones are a bit intimidating. And I don't know if I can do it. Well, I want to remind you, you're not the one breathing new life. No one can revive themselves. I've never seen someone in successful recovery raise their hand and say, yeah, I was in that dark valley and, I just mustered up the strength and I started breathing life into myself again and look at me now. No, you're not the one that does it. God is always doing the breathing. God does the putting back together. And every now and again, you'll get to stand in the valley and you'll get to actually see those miracles of the dead coming back to life, being raised from the grave. Light shining in the eyes again. So as you all reflect on the valley and what it means to do the work in the valley of dry bones, I want you all to hear from my brother, Matt Griswold. He's my friend and brother, but I just met him 2 days ago at Sober Open Mic Night. And man, when he sang, you could hear a pin drop in the room. And afterwards I said, dude, I would love to have you come play on a Saturday night. What are you doing this Saturday? He said, apparently I'm going to come sing here free. Matt, what makes it, as you hear these words, what makes this extra extraordinary, if that's a word, is Matt is 95 days sober. 95 days sober and killing it. And here's his song, Songbird. Take it away, brother.
Thanks. That was my pen that dropped. This is a song about my valley. As I lie awake this morning, I envy people still asleep. Hear a whisper by the window, I see a songbird by the street. He sings my trouble is the wind, and the storm it brings along. Though it may keep me from flying, it may not keep my song. And I'm wondering about the world and what it holds for me. Wondering where my spirit, where my soul could be. Trying to be more of a righteous man, so that light will shine in my eyes again. Packed up my belongings, hit the road, tasted the rain. I'm hoping life is out there waiting for me like I prayed. I left a broken hearted going, never healed the pain. If love does not forgive me, I will continue on my way. And I'll live out of a suitcase, searching for a friend, until the day that songbird sings to me again. I'll be wondering about the world and what it holds for me. Wondering where my spirit, where my soul could be. Trying to be more of a righteous man, so that light will shine in my eyes again. My lover fears the fight is never ending. She knows only of my wasted time. I once questioned if our love was worth defending, and War was such a harsh way to decide. I left her wondering about the world and what it meant to me, wondering how I carried on so emptily. And she found herself a righteous man, and that light it shines in her eyes again. And I'm wondering about the world and what it holds for me, wondering where my spirit, where my soul could be, trying to be more of a righteous man, so that light will shine, so that light will shine in my eyes again.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Not too shabby, huh? Thank you, Matt Griswold. Matt, stay right there for just a moment because, see, Matt told me just yesterday that I think you have like 70 songs written, right? That means you got to come back is what exactly that means. But, hey, maybe you know someone with a recording studio that Matt could get some of these recorded on, which would just be totally awesome because we need these recordings out there in the world. So if you know someone, talk to me or talk to Matt. That would be really cool. Thank you, Matt, for being here. You're welcome here anytime, my brother. All right. All right, y'all, if you're new with us at Free this evening, if this is your first time here, you should know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house to share some of their experience, strength, and hope with us. And I'm so excited for you to meet my friend Bre Wolta. Let me say just a few words about Bre. Bre is the loved one of an addict because you have to remember we're a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. Bre is also in recovery from an eating disorder, in recovery from chasing the chaos, and she worked for 10 years in the field of addiction and recovery, and she's still kind of in that field, but she left that to now she is a relational clarity coach. And if you're thinking to yourself, what in the heck is a relational clarity coach? Well, we're going to find out together. How does that sound? Will you help me welcome my friend Bre up to the living room? Welcome back. This is all yours. Bre Wolta. It is so good to have you here. I said this in the last service, and I'll say it again. Bre's kind of a new friend, too. I mean, we just met 2 weeks ago. Carrie McMullen, our community ambassador, put us in touch and connected us and said, oh, my goodness, Bre would be a great guest storyteller. You got to have her here. So we got in touch with Bre, and here you are. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we're just going to go all the way back to the beginning. So buckle in. We're going to go all the way back to childhood. Because I know you had an interesting childhood that led you to perfectionism, big one we deal with here, and chaos in your relationships, and being the loved one of an addict. I mean, what all this look like?
Yes, yeah. Well, I had a lot of unpredictability in my childhood. So as Ryan mentioned, I have a loved one who was in active addiction for most of my adolescence. And for those of you who have loved ones in addiction or in recovery, you know that that's tremendously traumatic and chaotic. On top of that, my mother has had several health issues, And my parents had split up and gotten back together many times in my childhood. So unpredictability seemed to be the only thing that we could predict. And from that, I decided, I took upon myself that I needed to take control and make some predictability in my life.
Yeah. So that became your coping mechanism, right? How can I take control? And then an eating disorder developed out of that control. Is that what's the language you'd put to that?
Yeah. So the perfectionism also came from living with somebody who was in active addiction and seeing the chaos and the turmoil that was happening in the family and in the system. And I was like, if I could just be perfect, then things will get better, or at least I won't add to what's happening. And most of this was not conscious thought. This was just, as a young person, you just create these maladaptive coping mechanisms, and that's what happens. And the perfectionism then bled over to my body. I started modeling when I was 15, and in addition to learning really quickly that I could control something, which felt really good, and was that high, right? We talk about when you take a drug or alcohol, you get that rush. Well, I got that rush from having control and it working. So that, coupled with getting a lot of positive reinforcement from modeling, was a great recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and did that last like through your mid-20s, early 20s? I mean...
Yeah, early 20s into late 20s. Yeah, most of my 20s.
Most of your 20s.
Yeah.
And you didn't really have a spiritual background, right? You didn't really have a spiritual upbringing. You didn't have spiritual tools. You weren't on a spiritual path. Yeah. I think you said last service you were the higher power.
I sure thought so.
Doesn't work out well for us.
Nope.
But what did not having any sort of spiritual tool belt look like for you?
Yeah, when I was little, I remember my mom taking us to church, and I remember sleeping in church. And it never clicked for me. It never clicked as something that felt intriguing or interesting or something that I wanted to learn more in my later years when I became more independent. So I didn't. And because I had such a need for control and this over responsibility that I had assumed, I just thought that everything was in my control. It was mine to fix, and it didn't occur to me that there was a higher power to call on, or a higher power that could relieve some of the stress and the pressure. Yeah.
So you don't have to go into great amounts of detail here, but your last relationship, you said, was like this catalyst for you being able to take responsibility for your life. It's also the thing that kind of led you to being now a relationship clarity coach, which I hope you will explain to them what a relationship clarity coach is. But what happened with that?
Yeah, in growing up in that type of environment, you become really primed for chaos. And because I was very lost in my 20s and very, just trying to cling to anything that could make me feel like I was doing the right thing or give me the external validation. So I attracted men who were emotionally unavailable and people that I could chase after and try to fix and try to convince to love me. And if I was just better, then it would work. And I was in this relationship for several years, and it started really tanking during COVID. And at that time, I was presented with an opportunity to take a course in shamanism. And it was the first time that my eyes were kind of open to what a spiritual something. I didn't really know what it was. I was like, I have a lot of time on my hands and really nothing to lose.
And explain to people what shamanism is, for those that don't know.
Yeah, shamanism is a spiritual practice that's based in the natural world. So they believe that there's medicine in everything, every plant, every animal, and using those plants and animals and the signs and synchronicities and calling upon them specifically to heal or to feel like you're not alone, to receive direction in your life.
Okay, so one of the things that happened in this course you were exposed to was a cord-cutting ceremony.
Yes.
And I found this absolutely fascinating. I want you to explain, what is a cord-cutting ceremony?
Yes. Traditionally, it's a guided visualization. So your experience is receiving a meditative journey. And traditionally, it's led where you're bringing into mind, into your attention, a person that you want to detach from. So we all have energetic ties. to people and things and circumstances. So if you can cut that energetic tie, then it's almost like you're reclaiming that energy leak. And I practiced that way for several years in my own healing and as I was trying to leave that toxic relationship. And it occurred to me that I needed to cut ties with so much more than one person. And so the way that I visualize and have crafted it now and how I work with clients and work with myself still is releasing yourself from an entire identity, an entire story that you've created. So in my case, the story of being codependent, needing a man to validate my worth, not having a voice, not feeling comfortable having needs for that matter. And it's almost like you're living in this grayed existence and your light is dimmed. And if you can visualize yourself being attached to that world and that world really sucking a lot of your life force, then you can also visualize releasing that story. And not just releasing it out of anger or malice.
Yeah.
You're releasing it out of honor, and you invite that version of yourself back in so that you can receive the wisdom and learn from all the pain so that you can continue to evolve.
So you didn't use this word, but I find it fascinating. Were you able to forgive yourself, or do you see others who go through the ceremony and they are forgiving themselves for their past?
Yes, I love that question. And I had one client specifically who, when she cut the energetic tie, she's like, I saw the past version of myself like holding back that world and like, go, go, go. Like we've got, like, you have so much more than this.
Yeah.
And like almost giving her permission to step out of that narrative that had become so ingrained in herself.
Yeah, and why that's so interesting to me is in the New Testament, there's the word forgiveness, and one of the Greek translations of that is the word aphiemi, which literally means to release or to let go. So you're letting go of the things that have been holding you back.
Yeah.
And we always think it's about the other person. I'm going to forgive them. No, you're forgiving so that you can move on, so that you can let go.
Yeah.
So powerful. So Bre is going to lead one of those ceremonies here on August 19th. It's a Saturday. And what time are we doing it Saturday?
1 to 2:30 on August 19th.
1 to 2:30. And I know you primarily work with women in your line of work, but this is open for anybody, right?
Yeah, so the releasing ceremonies are all genders, so everyone's invited to that.
Okay. And what should people expect? Like, I always try to tell people this is not creepy. Like, I've never done it, so maybe it is creepy, but I don't think it's
Not
creepy.
creepy.
It's not creepy.
It can be magical, but not creepy.
Magical, but I love that's the new tagline.
Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. So your experience is that of a guided meditation. So we'll have a big circle, and you'll be lying on a mat receiving my guidance in the journey. And before and after the actual guided visualization, we'll have a sharing circle, because part of healing is being seen and not staying in isolation, and sharing, being witnessed in what it is that you're committing to let go of. So it's really powerful in that community piece and also the energetic release of the story.
Yeah. And so speaking of working primarily with women, what are some of the spiritual connections that you see happening in your work with them? Maybe it's part of the releasing ceremony, but maybe it's something else. What do you see happen?
Yeah, but the releasing ceremony is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And it's to your point about finding forgiveness, because when we let go of relationships like that, we're not just grieving letting go of the person. We're grieving who we were in that relationship too. And there's a lot of grief, and it's very nuanced and confusing. And so to have somebody who's been with it guiding you through that and holding you, in addition to introducing you to a different type of spirituality or a way to connect with your own intuition. So many of my clients they're like, I don't have an intuition anymore. And I'm like, you do. It's just, you've just cut it off from here.
Yeah.
So helping slowly rebuild that trust with self and build the self-respect that's really needed to be able to shift these patterns and move about your life from a place of self-love, and not in the self-love that's like thrown around on all of social media. It's like, just love yourself. It's like, you have to tolerate yourself first. It's a step-by-step journey to get there.
And if I were to ask you, what does this have to do with, to bring it full circle, what does this have to do with addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees? And what does this have to do with we don't do shame? What does it have to do with anything?
Yeah. First of all, you're not alone. So if you are a loved one of an addict or you are an addict, you know what isolation feels like. You know what chaos feels like. And oftentimes when you find recovery from that thing, you start to see that chaos surface in other places of your life. So because you are in recovery from one thing doesn't mean that you're not needing some support in other spaces. So many of my clients are in recovery, and that's how I came to reach out to you. I was like, yeah. I think people who are finding themselves again in recovery need help in their relationships too. So you're not alone.
Yeah, and there were so many comments at the last service about how many people do we know that they get into recovery and they get this freedom from drugs or booze, but then the tendencies, the patterns show up in relationships.
Yes.
Like you get rid of one addiction and we substitute it for another.
Yes.
And that's your work.
That's my work.
I'll stay out of that work. You do that work.
Yes.
All right, y'all. So August 19th,
Yep.
1 p.m. for the release ceremony. And if you want to be part of that, I highly encourage you to attend. Carrie McMullen has, there's a table just out front. It's got a flyer on it, and it's got the little scan QR code. You can sign up there. You can scan it. It brings you right to the registration. This is a free event, no cost. So if you are looking to release some things, to cut the cords with things in your life, I highly encourage you to attend that. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Bre. Bre's going to be sticking around a little bit. So if you want to connect with her more, if you've got questions for her, find Bre. She'll be, I don't know, here, wandering in the cafe, wherever. Find Bre, get to know her, talk to her. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Bre.
Yes.
Bre Wolta, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Great to have you here. All right, y'all. The way we close things down on a Saturday night here at Free is very similar to the way we begin, and that is we begin with celebrations. We close things with heartaches, the burdens that we tend to carry that we don't have to carry alone. It's why we have community. You're not fit to carry these burdens alone. You suck at it. So we do it together in community. So if you're online, just drop your comments in the Facebook. Drop your heartaches in the Facebook or the YouTube section of the comments, and we will heartache with you there. And if you're here, again, this is a really important part of our time together. We believe that God always hears the cries of the people, and we do it together as community. So we'll take 3 minutes. If you're here, just raise up your hand if you have a heartache. You want a prayer for something, encouragement. Holly will get you a mic. Scott will get you a mic. And this is your time. We'll take 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Erica. I just wanted to lift up one of my housemates, Mel. She lost a family member in the past couple days, so I just wanted to pray for her and her family.
All right, prayers for her. Thank you for sharing with us, Erica.
My name is Nico, and I have a son that's struggling with his addiction and a daughter that's struggling with an addiction, but my son is also struggling with mental health and is sitting in county jail and fighting, going in and out of suicide watch, and they're not seeing him. So I pray that that with my help they can get in to see him so he don't do no harm on himself.
Prayers for your son and your daughter and you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Hi, I'm Abby, and a member of our home team who is loved here in this community is really struggling right now. Calvin he's not in a good place, and he has relapsed, and we're just praying for him. And if he's watching tonight, that he knows that he is loved and he is supported, and he is always welcome back.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Such a loved man in this community. Hey, on the count of 3, because he might be watching tonight, can y'all shout out, "We love you, Calvin"? 1, 2, 3.
We love you, Calvin.
Put the dope down.
No doubt. Thank you.
Hey, I want to say a prayer for a young lady out there who's struggling. She has fallen back into addiction, and we're trying to see if we can help her get out. Her name is Joy, so I want to send a special prayer out for Joy.
All right, lifting up Joy.
I have one for my cousin back in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was just diagnosed with glioblastoma, IDH wild type, stage 4 cancer. So prayer for him. He's special to me. He sat by my dad as my dad was passing away from cancer. So prayers for him. He will learn next week his treatment options moving forward. So we'll find out more.
Prayers for Tammy's cousin. Thank you, Tammy.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I ask for prayers this week for both my cousin and her mom. Both of them suffer from addiction, and my aunt attempted suicide last week and was unsuccessful, but is now locked up under Lake County care and is in a very not great place. So just prayers for them up in Portland. And Caroline, if you're watching tonight, I love you.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Prayers for your Portland people.
Prayers, my name's Adam. Prayers for everybody that's ever lost anybody to fentanyl overdoses, any type of drug overdose, alcohol, any such things. Prayers go out to all of you guys. We know loss is not easy.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. And Darren's going to join me up here. Thank you, Holly. Adam, speaking of that, I just want to let you all know, we've said it a couple of times here, but some churches do, like in the fall, they'll do a bring a friend type deal, and it'll be all sorts of exciting stuff. Well, our coming into fall type deal, our exciting thing here is bring a friend here for our F fentanyl series. And seriously, I mean, I hope y'all come. I hope you're part of it. Bring a friend, because this is fentanyl keeps coming up. Y'all know this is an epidemic that we are facing, a real crisis that is taking literal lives. And so we're going to try to address that. The first week, so this is the last 2 Saturdays in August. That first week, we've got both weeks actually, we have all kinds of vendors and resources that will be in the cafe area that can inform us and educate us. That first Saturday, it's August 19th, we're having a panel discussion here. And we're going to talk about this stuff. What are the trends? How do we combat this? How do we think about this? How do we educate ourselves around this? And then the second week, you're going to hear our guest storyteller, Connie. Many of you all know Connie Weinrich. They just lost their daughter last summer to fentanyl, and she's going to share some of her experiences with us. So I hope you all plan on coming the last 2 Saturdays in August for the F Fentanyl series. Sorry, Darren, I didn't know I was going to go on that little tangent.
No, that's good. And if you guys are curious, Narcan is a big thing. If you don't know about it, please ask us. Ask anybody in recovery. There's trainings, free trainings. You can get free Narcan. Always carry it with you.
We're doing a Narcan training at that. It'll be after the service in one of the rooms in between the 5 and 7 service.
It is very important to have that on you.
Yes. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Man, we could go on and on. Shall we join with our online people for heartaches?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. You take the first one.
Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong side.
Yeah, I was going to say that, dude, but
man, rookie up here. Carrie, hi Carrie. Welcome back, Candidate family. Please lift up your prayers for the Kirkwood family and my best friend Scott, who is in the hospital currently. We will do that, Carrie, lifting him up.
And Rebecca says, my daughter Laura died recently. I miss her terribly. A gratitude is that she has been sober 12 years. Rebecca, our heart breaks with yours, lifting you up tonight, and so grateful she passed sober. 12 years of sobriety.
Christy, prayers for our friend Karen, who's going through treatment for breast cancer. Lifting her up, Christy. Thank you for letting us know about that.
Lance says, I want to lift up Chris and prayers for help and support for what he is going through. All right, Lance, prayers for Chris. I'm glad you're with us tonight.
Stephen, prayers for Ron H., recent heart bypass surgery, recovering in hospital. Sending lots of healing prayers your way. Thank you for letting us know, Stephen.
Yeah, good to have you with us tonight, Stephen. Thank you, Darren, for joining me up here. By the way, when we were talking about the Recovery Art Show, this is Darren Valdez, the founder and executive director of Colorado Artists in Recovery. It's going to be a fun event, man.
It's going to be amazing. So, yeah, it's a lot of our students worked really hard to create art that represents their recovery. So please join us. Tammy will be serving lots of
Lots of coffee. Yes. All right. Thank you, Dee. Hey, I just want to close by saying I say this each week, but we are able to do the mission of breaking the silence of addiction. One of the ways we're able to do that is because of your generous giving here. We exist because of you. We are funded by you, the people, and we are grateful for that. Thank you for those of you that give generously as part of a spiritual practice in your life, part of a sacrificial practice in your life. We're really grateful for it. It helps keep the mission thriving. There's a giving box here by Bobby G, our tech lead, and there's also a giving box just outside these doors. And your generosity helps the mission keep thriving. If you are not exactly the cash type people like me, well, there are online ways to give. We have 3 online options. First, you can download the app. It's free. It's got all the content on it, messages, guest storytellers are on there, and you can just click on the giving button. You can give one time or weekly or monthly or however you want to do it, and you can do the exact same thing on the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, or you can text the number on your screen, and it will walk you through a very simple set of instructions. And especially if this is your home, if you call this place home, we think giving is really important, and know how grateful we are for it. It seriously makes all the difference in the world. Oh, and I should say this. If you want to give specifically to the campaign, the Home at Last campaign, when you get to the website and you hit give, well, there's a drop down, and you have to click on Home at Last campaign, and it'll go directly to the campaign. And we're grateful for that too. Shall we close in a prayer? I would invite you to open your hands. Just a simple sign of openness, open to Spirit moving in your midst. You could take a big, deep breath and exhale and be reminded the God of the universe is with you in your breathing, in your bones. And if you don't know the Serenity Prayer, it'll be on your screen. And it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, go in grace and peace, and we will see you next time.